Hello everyone, my name is MansaMusa and welcome back to my channel, and today we're back with another replay analysis video in Advanced Wars by Web. And I know I haven't done a replay analysis video in a little bit here, but I wanted to take this match today as kind of a warm-up because this Sunday, that is at November 16th, I will actually be co-casting the grand finals of a live Advanced Wars by Web tournament with my good friend Humita. And that tournament is going to be the APC 2 tournament, the Anonymous Player Cup 2. And kind of the format or the idea of the Anonymous Player Cup is through a series of qualifiers, some of the top-rated players on the site will face off against each other, and whoever wins their individual brackets will advance to the finals, the actual bracket itself of the APC. And in that bracket, they will lose their names entirely. So you will not see Arya, Fireheart, or Sonja Superior. You'll see new names based off of famous generals throughout time. That way, the players that ultimately get to that stage know who the other players are who got to that stage, but won't know who exactly they're facing in those given matches. So that'll be a lot of intrigue both for the players themselves in those matches, and then also for the audience members to try to guess who exactly is doing what in any of these given matches. The actual quarterfinals for the tournament happened last weekend, so we already have some players that have been knocked out for the early stages of this tournament, but the semifinals are going to happen this Saturday, that's the 15th, and the grand finals are going to happen on the 16th, and I, of course, will be co-casting that grand finals match. So to get ready for the stress and also amazing time that that co-casting is going to be, I wanted to do a cast of this match here today between Arya Fireheart and Sonja the Superior, because spoiler alert, one of these two players did ultimately make it to the finals of the tournament. And then also this map and this matchup specifically of a Sami mirror on Misery is something we are probably likely to see in the grand finals. Players generally seem to like this map. It was one of 5 that was available to them, and in particular they really like Sami on this map. So let's go into this map and this matchup specifically a little bit more to figure out both why players are enjoying this map, number 1, and number 2, why Sami is so good on it. First of all, this map is called Misery. It was created for, I believe, Voice of Akasha's Live Madness 2 tournament a couple of weeks ago. And it's a very interesting map because it's a 3-base mixed map. That is not something you very often see. I can only count on my hand the number of maps I've seen with this kind of format in the past. But the whole idea of it is it's very similar to a lot of other mixed-base maps where you're going to have, you know, a dozen different fronts going on all over this map. I mean, you literally have fronts like every 4 tiles here going up and down all across the map, but unlike other mixed-base maps, there's not going to be a dedicated strong side. So on most mixed-base maps, you would maybe see another base here, so it'd be like 2 bases for blue, and then maybe attacking either one of these weak bases from red, maybe going for the HQ, a lot of different ideas, but you would eventually collapse on a single base, maybe unmix the map, and then go from a push from there. The thing with the 3-base mixed map, though, is none of these individual bases are actually the strong side. Obviously, the airports here are going to provide some additional strength for these 2 red bases and the opposite for the blue bases as well, but the bases themselves are not going to provide enough of a push to actually overcome any of your opponent bases on their own. They're going to need help from other bases on the map. And that's especially true because this map is also very mountainous, as you can see. There's a bunch of terrain on this map that creates a lot of different channels that really restrict tank movement. Your tanks are not going to be able to easily front shift, as well as your anti-airs, which makes battlecopters even stronger on this map, makes those airports even more important. Overall, though, this map is very crazy. There's a lot of properties on it. There's a lot of different fronts. There's a lot of base trade ideas, HQ rush ideas. It's very, very active. You cannot be a passive CO or a passive player on this map. You are going to have to get your hands dirty. Eagle would not be a great pick on this map in Tier 2. This is a Tier 2 match, so you have the options of Sami, Max, and I would say Olaf is really the only viable options, maybe Kindle. But I think really the top option and what players have really settled on is Sami. So why is Sami so strong on this map? Well, there's a couple of different reasons. Number 1, infantry are just incredibly, incredibly strong in general in any mixed-base maps, just because there are so many fronts. Infantry are going to have to fight each other eventually because you can't commit on all of those fronts. And then having those strong infantry obviously gives you a strong boost. In addition, because of all these mountains, infantry and especially mechs are going to be much more viable than they are normally, and obviously Sami, those are units she wants to build anyway. Additionally, because of these kind of narrow thoroughfares that tanks are going to have to go through, tanks are a little bit less optimal of a play, and especially because battlecopters are so strong, it's really just not going to be your optimal build. So therefore, that also helps Sami as compared to someone like Max. And additionally, another hurting factor for Max here is artillery are very strong. You can get the base lock on this base here by planning an artillery here, here, or here, which is relatively easy to do for the blue player. And even this base over here, so now I'm switching to the red player's perspective, this base over here can fall under threat if the red player sends an artillery here, or potentially an artillery through this path here. I've seen that on both various replays that I've covered or that I've watched on this map before. So it is a highly dynamic map. Pretty much any of these bases that you see here, any of the 6 bases, could potentially fall under threat, but mainly the targets for both players are going to be this middle base here, and also the base and HQ rush here. Especially when you're playing a Sami matchup, the HQs are going to be a huge red flag, something that you have to be constantly vigilant for and protecting, because obviously Victory March can come in very quickly and capture that HQ. With all that being said, let's hop right into this replay. Arya Fireheart versus Sonja the Superior on Misery. So we're going to start off these first few turns just with some basic infantry builds like normal. There is some very interesting decisions you're going to have to make in this capture phase, particularly with how aggressive this base is going to be for red. This city, and this city are pretty much going to be yours, but you're also going to have to send infantry out here to the north to contest these 6 in the middle. They become highly contested, especially in a Sami mirror, because these infantry can come from pretty much any of these 4 bases here that I'm highlighting. And when they come to the center here, because of the mountainous terrain next to these cities, you can get a lot of very important and impactful engagements of your infantry on the city. So you want to try to get these cities as fast as possible, because if you do, you can pretty much always ensure that they're going to be very hard to flip with all the mountainous terrain around them. In addition, you have this city here. This has been kind of lovingly referred to by Humita as the poison city or the toxic city. And the reason for that is it's pretty close to both the red and blue player. And generally, whoever tries to fight for it and go for it, it doesn't go well for them. Even if they get it, they're kind of sacrificing too much because it's a little bit out of the way for both players. And it just invests too much of your resources, both from this base, which maybe wants to attack a bit more to the north, and from this base, which again wants to focus a bit more on the middle. The other thing that you're going to commonly see on this map, even in the Sami matchup, is a delay of early income. So this infantry may not even go and capture either of these 2 cities, because it actually wants to capture this airport immediately. And the reason for that, like we talked about, battlecopters are so strong, you want to get them out as soon as you possibly can. So you'll often see on this matchup, even in Sami mirrors where income can be important, or you want to have efficient use of your infantry, that they will indeed skip here and go for the airport. But we'll see what both players do here, and we'll see kind of some of the strategy that we were talking about. So we do see Sonja the Superior here sending his first infantry down south, going for this capture like we talked about, potentially puts him in range to interrupt the city, the toxic city that we were talking about, or back up and get either of these 2 cities as well. Another thing that you're going to see on this map, like we kind of talked about earlier, because tank chains are kind of hard, or not the best builds here, and especially in the early game, because the map is so walled off by the mountains, you're going to see kind of a waiting game going on with income. You may not see a tank built as soon as you can, even if they have the income for it, just because infantry are so strong and have such an important job. And the tanks, again, aren't that good. You'd almost rather just not build any tanks at all and just have your first vehicle be a battlecopter. So we'll see what the players do here. Very interesting move here by Arya Fireheart, going actually for the city, the toxic city that we were talking about, instead of going and rushing for the battlecopter. I'm not sure that is the best play. Again, this can be interrupted very easily by Sonja. He can just send this infantry in. Actually, because it's Sami, that won't actually interrupt. Arya Fireheart can actually send in another infantry, kill off the interrupting infantry, and still get the city. So maybe it's slightly better here, but even with the Sami better infantry engagements here, I would still rather get to the airport. Again, battlecopters are just so valuable on this map. Sonja doesn't even go for it, just finishes his cities off, sends 2 infantry here. This is very smart in my opinion to the middle. Again, you want to get these early caps off as soon as you can. And we see Sonja actually going for this back city here. I bet you dollars to donuts, though, he's not actually going to finish it. He's just going to interrupt his own cap to go for the airport. But we go to Arya Fireheart's turn, and you'll see that she does in fact have 9,000 funds, so it'll be very interesting to see what she builds this turn, if she's going to go for a tank or not, or if she's just going to continue to delay some of these builds to get out more infantry. And that's what we see, right? So we see the 9k funds there not spent. We instead see 3 infantry. We have a little bit of a slower push here towards the middle than what we saw with Sonja Superior. yeah, just a little bit less impactful infantry here for Arya than Sonja. I think that is a little bit due to turn advantage as well. And again, more focus on the income here, going for these two cities rather than rushing the airport. But we go here to Sonja's turn, and we do see the first vehicle built of the game, and it is going to be a tank. So this tank can still have a lot of pressure. I kind of down-talked the tanks a little bit, said they weren't the best builds. But even as Sami, a tank can have a lot of good impact here, and the main idea is it's going to be sent to the middle here to kind of harass these infantry. It's going to be very hard for Arya to really put any pressure towards that tank. The best thing that she could really do is build a mech from this base and send it here, but even then the tank can kind of outposition it a little bit, and it's going to force Arya to probably build multiple mechs, which again aren't the worst units for Sami, but maybe not the best use of them, especially because if you're focused too much on the defense of the space, you're going to lose out on a lot of the income and pressure here towards the middle. But we go back here to Arya's turn. Start some of these middle captures. Because these are Sami captures, they're going to be very hard to interrupt. That, again, is just why Sami is so good on this map and why you would have a much harder time if you were someone like, let's say, Olaf or Kindle. All of these city caps could be interrupted in those cases. If Sami infantry would absolutely interrupt if this was, let's say, an Olaf infantry here. But yeah, again, it's just why Sami is so strong in this map and why both players went for her. We do see the first mech of the game built by Arya Fireheart to respond to this tank. And we go back to Sonja's turn. We do see the airports being capped. Interestingly, this airport, I think this is just the correct capture chain, so both players will get it coming on the next few turns here, but Sonja is going to get, I could say, the better airport because it can threaten this space faster, I believe 1 turn faster than Arya. So interesting decision here, interrupting his own cap here on this city to finish off this capping infantry here on this city. Yeah, good denial of income here. Obviously, these infantry can come back and still capture these cities. This infantry can be sent to pressure the middle as well. And with no infantry immediately in range to punish this, obviously this infantry can interrupt its own city to get a hit in, but it's not going to be the best hit. And no Arya infantries in the area can actually go back and sit on the city to either hit an infantry or start capping itself. This is probably a pretty good engagement for Sonja. And we do also see an artillery build. This is pretty typical, but also I think very, very strong for Sonja. So obviously I think this tank is going to, it's actually being a little bit flexible right now. It's threatening to go down to the south. I don't think it ever really will. I think it has much more use case going here to the middle. And I think this artillery will follow as well. The tank might help block off the artillery a bit, and then the artillery can sit on this square here, or any of these middle squares, probably a little bit less likely, and help to threaten a base lock on this central base. But we also see some very interesting builds here by Arya. We're mech chaining down here in the south as well, which I don't really understand. I mean, obviously this tank was threatening you a little bit, and you're protecting this infantry with this mech. But I don't think it's a huge threat. Also, the important thing here, or kind of a downside here, is you're putting your mechs in range of infantry. And obviously, Sami mechs, Sami infantry are going to have a lot of attack power, and even a Sami infantry is probably not going to get the best engagement on a mech on a city. But it's still a great value engagement, right? Even if Sami rolls like 6-6 here, or like 5-6 even, you're still taking a bunch of actual value off Arya by damaging those mechs with those infantry. So a little bit interesting here. Normally, you see the mech spam from the central base. But we'll have to see what Arya's idea here is with the mech spam in the south as well. So we get some more engagements going over here towards the middle. The tank does in fact go towards the middle along with the artillery. I think maybe Arya's idea here is to meet up with the mechs and try to send them to the north to threaten both the tank and the artillery here, but mechs are generally a little bit slower, so this may not work out as well as she wants it to. We do see some more captures here in the center for Sonja. We can actually see the exact same attack that Sonja did to Arya by Arya. If she chooses to, she can send this infantry towards the forest, this infantry towards the mountain, and try to completely interrupt this cap. We'll see if that's what she goes for. We do see, this is not an interrupt again because this is Sami, but a nice hit here by Sonja as well. And no battlecopters yet on day 7. I think this is a little bit delayed by both players. Honestly, I would love to see a battlecopter a turn or two sooner just by, again, rushing that airport. I think it would have you know, a lot of power here and threatening the space. Battlecopters are impressive on this map. We're going to get into it. I'm sure the players will build them, but they're just so impressive on this map. If you build an anti-air from this space, it can just run away and go to attack this space, and then you have to build another anti-air, and then it can run away and go towards the middle. It's just very hard to track them down without having really battlecopters or even fighters of your own. But yeah, so we see the first battlecopter of the day here, first battlecopter of the match by Arya, so we will see how effective they are on this map, but I would like to have seen either player kind of rush that a bit sooner, I think. We do see some of this interesting mech coverage here, so this mech's covering this one's covering this one, and they're both, the center ones are kind of covering the infantry here in the middle. What's interesting, though, is that with no mechs in range of this artillery can take one step forward and really threaten this base. Which feels very weird. We have all these mechs in the middle here, but none of them are sitting on the city or the mountain to really threaten the mech from doing, the artillery from doing its main goal, which is base locking you, which it can now do from this tile. So a little bit of interesting positioning there. Obviously, this mech is now built to do that, but you can still put the tank here and then shell the mech with the artillery if you want immediately if it comes to this mountain. Battlecopter is going to come in, obviously, to help with that as well, and I think it's still an engagement that Sonja might go for, might be useful. So a bit of some interesting infantry positioning here. We do see a killing off of one infantry in the area. These infantry are probably going to die, so it's a little bit of an interesting trade there. Again, the infantry comes in and gets a nice engagement here on the mech. The artillery doesn't go for the base lock, so it doesn't want the mech to have the free hit on the tank. Obviously, it could have done that, put the artillery here and the tank here, and then have the artillery get a hit on the mech. Doesn't go for that, though. We do see some more infantry engagements of the mechs, and now the tank coming in and almost wiping off this mech. So kind of taking this approach to deal with all the mechs here, getting a bunch of infantry engagements and a tank hit to kind of weaken them. But it's a little bit shaky, I think. Obviously, this mech is going to be in range of the tank here. This mech can come and sit on the city, and you get a pretty nice engagement here. So I'm not too sold here with this attack by Sonja. I think you could have either delayed a little bit to have the battlecopter coming in. Dealing with a battlecopter, a tank, and an artillery can be almost impossible for the space to do alone, but I feel like you've kind of fed into what Arya wanted to do with some of these mech attacks here by going for these engagements. Yes, you did get some good hits, but Arya's going to get some good hits back, so we'll see what she does. So we kill off an infantry. We actually have this mech come here and attack the artillery. Don't hate that at all. Get a nice hit on it there. This mech gets a very powerful engagement on the tank. Again, just why Sami mechs are so ridiculously powerful and why she is so good on this map. We have a killing off of this infantry, which is very interesting. Obviously, it's going to go back to 7 HP. This battlecopter could come in and even come in and threaten the city as well. You'll notice that these cities are kind of a little bit far away from this base. Obviously, they're far away from the blue base as well, but I have seen, in particular, this city flipped many a time on previous replays of this map. So very interesting attack here by Arya to go for this as well. We have the tank that was kind of centralizing towards attacking these infantry go towards the south. I think Arya is realizing that these three central cities aren't that contested anymore. They have really fallen under to who they should have fallen under. So Sonja has gotten these 3 cities, or will get these 3 cities, and Arya has gotten these 3. So recognizing that, the tank comes back to the south, tries to put a little bit more pressure on the space, or I believe that is going to be the plan. And we do see a anti-air build here. This might seem a little bit early, but I do think it is smart. You want to be prophylactic with your anti-air. You don't want this battlecopter to really have any threat on this game. If it goes to the south, you can build another anti-air there. It sucks, but it's really what you have to do against battlecopters on this map. They're just incredibly strong. You can maybe even build a battlecopter of your own here if you didn't want to do that, to kind of have a little bit of battlecopter zoning out battlecopter ideas here. But we'll see what Arya decides to do. She brings in her own battlecopter here to, again, start to threaten the space. And we go back to Sonja here on day 8. So we have the battlecopters coming in. We do see some more infantry engagements to kill off the mechs. Again, though, I don't think this was the best attack by Sonja. Have the artillery shoot on the mech here. Interesting. Again, this mech now has pretty free reign. I mean, yes, it can be attacked by the infantry, but I still think it's going to get a nice hit here on the artillery. So a bit of an interesting decision there. Infantry doesn't even go for the hit on the mech, so yeah, you're just completely sacrificing this artillery now. Yeah, I'm not convinced by Sonja's attacks here in the center. Maybe it's to try to get some of these caps, but I don't know. I think you're going to need a little bit more support here. Do you like the anti-air build here? Yes, obviously you're doing it in front of the tank, but you need to do it because this battlecopter could threaten really anything else you try to decide to do. But overall, in the current board state, I'm liking Arya's position. Yes, the tank can get a hit here, but it's only going to do, because it's a Sami tank, like probably 3, maybe 4 on a high roll damage to the anti-air. It's going to heal it back, and obviously the anti-air can still be a huge threat towards this battlecopter. So you build the anti-air first, let the tank come in, then you take the anti-air off, let it defend, go sit on the city here, and then build a tank of your own, or maybe even a medium tank if you have the funds for it, which Sonja obviously does, or is going to have on the next turn, to deal with the tanks in the area. And you've successfully defended the space pretty well, especially without an artillery threat coming in to threaten the medium tank. But we do see another artillery build here by Sonja. Again, I think going for that center pressure and realizing that this artillery is going to fall from the earlier attack. So you do go ahead and see that. Have the battlecopter chains coming in. So yes, Arya decided that building an anti-air from this base is not going to be the play. Is just going to build, or she's just going to build her own battlecopters coming in here to help deal with the threat or the pressure of this battlecopter here by Sonja. See the tank coming in to help clear off the city. That is going to be flipped now. A very nice play for Arya. We see some more infantry engagements in the middle. It's very interesting to me every time I watch Sami matchups on this map. I always, no matter whose turn it is, I'm like, oh yeah, they're definitely winning the middle. Like, look at how good all these engagements are. They're absolutely going to win the middle here on the next couple turns. And then because of Sami, you go to the next turn and then they all get wiped out by their own infantry. Like, it's just so overpowered. So it keeps on flipping on a dime. But I would generally say the smartest take here is that no one's winning in the middle. They're all just sending in a bunch of infantry here, getting some good engagements, but you know, not getting a decisive advantage there, just because Sami is so strong on the attack with her own infantry. We do see a mech build here for Arya, and this is actually very scary. I think Sonja here could pop a double time, and if he does, he's going to get a hit on the mech with the battlecopter and with an infantry, and then with the extra movement, I believe he's going to be able to sit on this base. Let me do some math here. Yes, so this infantry can come and sit on the city and attack the mech. This battlecopter can come in, and if that kills, then this infantry can actually sit and base lock this base. So a very bold decision here by Arya. I'm not sure she saw this idea. I think the play here was actually definitely another anti-air. Yes, obviously this battlecopter is not as big of a threat, but it also is a unit that's absolutely never going to die to anything attacking the space, right? Obviously the battlecopter is the only real like punchy unit right now that could attack the space. And I think you kind of wanted another anti-air regardless, because this one's going to be attacking or threatening the mechs, infantry, and battlecopter in this area. Like this entire part of the map on anti-air is great. There's literally nothing attacking you. There's no tanks. There's no anything that could really threaten it. You can just shoot off this mech first and then go to town. So I think you wanted to build another anti-air here to help with the right side and this battlecopter, and especially because this mech build just doesn't seem like it's going to be it. I feel like it can get killed in a double time and then you lose the space. I think building this battlecopter was the mistake. I don't think you needed it this turn, especially with an anti-air built from this base. You're not going to get a lot of value out of this battlecopter in the short term. I think you might be throwing away your base as well. So we do see an attack here on the mech from the battlecopter that does give Sonja double time. He does go ahead and pop it. We see another attack here of this battlecopter onto the infantry. That's a little bit interesting with the anti-air in range, especially because this mech cannot cover it. We'll see what he's going to be doing there. But here's the attack that we were talking about. He does clear off the mech on the base. I wonder if that was a roll or not. Let's actually see if that was a roll with double time. No, I mean 1% chance, but I really did, with the extra chip damage from the battlecopter, I don't think that was a roll. So a great engagement there by Sonja, and a great find to help get this base. Okay, yeah, I'm seeing the idea of this battlecopter hit now. You're blocking off this anti-air from being able to knock off your infantry capping the base, and I believe that means this base is going to fall, unless you have some more double time shenanigans. But I think this was a great find by Sonja, and then you sack the battlecopter to finish off the base. So really strong play here. And it's going to beg the question, how is Arya going to respond? She obviously is going to have her own double time coming up here as well if she wants it, but there's not really a great attacking opportunity, right? Sonja very smartly built a anti-air on his space on the previous turn, so he can't really get a punchy unit to really come through and clear up the space. Obviously this tank's in range, but it's not going to do nearly enough damage, even with the battlecopter sacrificing itself to allow an infantry to sit on the base, especially because, again, Arya doesn't even have any infantry in range. So this is going to be a very kind of a brutal attack to respond from for Arya, but we'll see how she does it. Again, some more nice infantry engagements facilitated by the double time, giving those infantry that extra range. So obviously, before we get to this turn, I will say one thing about double time. I think double time is an incredibly strong power. It's very underrated as a CO power. It allows Sami to get a lot of breakthroughs like the base cap here that can be very interesting. But obviously you are also foregoing your victory march, which means Arya is going to have probably a huge income advantage here in a couple turns once they pop the victory march. Right now, Sonja the Superior is up 2k. And, you know, we can do kind of a board state check-in here. So Sonja the Superior is up 5 unit count, 20,000 and roughly 2k. Those are not terrible numbers for Arya at the start of her turn, especially with a power surge here with the CO power being popped. But the much bigger issue is she is now losing her base. So she needs to find a different way to get some good engagements here. And it's probably going to be through a lot of city caps here coming with Victory March. So we do see some infantry over here on the left being picked off. Obviously, this battlecopter is in pretty great range. No other battlecopter is really going to be in range to find it. Also, I didn't even notice this by Sonja the Superior. This is amazing infantry positioning as well. I thought that this battlecopter was just kind of getting sacked to protect this base, but because of the infantry positioning here, this anti-air can't even reach the battlecopter. So really, really strong play there by Sonja on his previous turn. See a good engagement here, battlecopter onto the tank by Arya. I do believe this is free with no coverage here by any of the other units. The battlecopter is in range, I guess, but then it's going to be covered by Arya's as well. But with an anti-air range as well, so maybe this actually was not the best engagement here by Arya towards this tank. Maybe getting a little bit desperate to try to get the power or the victory march off coming up. We do also see a fighter build here that's going to be very interesting. Fighters are incredibly strong in this map. Like I said previously, battlecopters are just ridiculously strong, so you need a unit with high mobility that's not going to get stopped by the mountains to help deal with them. And additionally, I think what Arya's plan here is going to be with the victory march is to send this fighter north and start to pressure the airport and eventually the HQ as well and go for the crushing blow, right? Like if you lose your base, if it's going to be a disaster that way, you need to find compensation in another way, and what better way than to win the game yourself. So I think we're going to see a push of all these infantry going northward with the battlecopter and the fighter and really threatening both this base and the HQ as well. So the battlecopter does come in and kill off the anti-air does come in and kill off the battlecopter, so that battlecopter only got 4 HP off a tank. That is not a great engagement at all. I have to imagine that was for charge building for Victory March, but we'll see what else happens on this turn. Again, kind of a questionable or not great engagement by this tank as well, getting picked off. We do see a fighter response by Sonja. I think that is very practical. Obviously, you need to deal with this fighter built by Arya, and especially nice is you can really threaten or delude the threat of the Victory March as well by just planning that fighter on the HQ itself. Then really the only thing that could take it off is multiple fighters coming here from Arya, or like a missile build if they get this base, which would be interesting to see. But yeah, I think what we can say about this board state right now is if the game doesn't end here in the next 4 or 5 turns, if this Victory March is not decisive, Sonja has absolutely won this match, right? It's 4 bases versus 2 now. It's completely, I mean, that CO power, that double time completely caught Arya off guard, and they've pretty much lost the game unless this Victory March push is successful. So really, as much as the board has a lot of interesting stuff going on here in this 2/3 chunk of the board, really this 1/3 here on the left is really all that's going to matter. These battlecopters coming in, these fighter engagements, and is this HQ going to fall? So, very interesting stuff here. We'll see what happens on these upcoming turns. We do see some more good, I will say, caps here by Arya, trying to get some of these cities around the base that they've just recently captured, as well as threatening some of the center. They obviously have much more control of this area than just a few turns ago, and that's going to be very helpful because even with the Victory March turn where Arya might get 5, 6, 7 flips, which might seem like a lot, but it's totally possible on a map like this because cities are so close together, infantry are so strong, and you're going to have so many of them. That's definitely possible. Getting some of these flips beforehand to kind of build up an army and prevent really the income disaster that Victory March might be is very strong. What's also worth mentioning is there's no capture limit on this map, so that is going to be some formats you will see on some tournament matches where if you, let's say, get a 12, 13, 14k income advantage on your opponent, it would instantly end the game. You are not going to see that in this tournament. I do believe there is a day limit, which is like 30 days or something, but obviously that's not going to come into play on a map that's so as aggressive as this one. We do see Sonja start to defend this part of the map. We do see the battlecopters coming in, these two front shifting wave, both from the anti-air, but then also protecting this base as well. Interesting to see a little bit. So I guess the fighter build was necessary and needed from the airport. I agree there. But because of it, you're only going to have an infantry on this base, which is a little scary. Obviously, you can get that infantry can get picked off by this battlecopter and this infantry itself, maybe even with a double time. I don't think that's going to be the best play, though. I still think you do wait for Victory March, so you might get away with the infantry on this base just for one more turn. Like this engagement here to weaken off the infantry as well, making this idea even a little bit less viable. Okay, so we're going for the Victory March at this turn. So we, sorry, was not expecting that. The battlecopter is sacrificing itself onto the anti-air. Anytime that happens, you automatically know it's for power charge. We're going for the Victory March this turn. These infantry are not in range, though, even with... So you're going to have two more movement, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to get you... you won't even be able to go into the mountain because the mountain is 2 movement for the infantry. So you're not going to be able to get the HQ on this turn. I think it has to be for this base, then. With the extra movement, you're definitely going to be able to... And the extra firepower, you're definitely going to be able to clear this infantry on the base and then capture it. But that seems a little thin to me, to be honest. I think you wanted to wait a few more turns, maybe build another fighter... maybe another anti-air, just get some more units in this area to deal with the battlecopters and fighter, so the Superior himself, to then not only capture the space, but really threaten the HQ as well. So this Victory March might seem a little thin to me, to be honest. But we do see it popped. So we have the 7 HP coming in and clearing. This infantry is going to be in range to capture the base. Very, very strong still. I mean, obviously this base is going to be within, 1-2 range, infantry range of the HQ here. But you're going to have to figure out a way to deal with the fighter, right? The fighter can still just sit on the HQ, and one fighter for yourself all the way back at home base on the other side of the map is not going to be enough to take it down. So while this base get right by the HQ might seem very, very strong for Arya, it's definitely not a solved game yet. What we are seeing, though, is a bunch of city flips here by Arya. We see a 26-17 income advantage. Very, very strong. I don't believe they're going to be able to get any more. We do see the fighter coming out. A second fighter build, I do think that's practical. I do think that was needed. We see this infantry sitting here on the HQ. I know I said I wouldn't talk about the other 2/3 of the map as well, but I do think this is practical as well. I think Sonja the Superior could potentially do a counterattack towards this base and the HQ as well if you're not careful. So I do like, and we'll shout out that infantry positioning on the HQ as well. But coming to Sonja's turn here, we do see the engagements on the battlecopter. I think this is a very simple idea. You just kill off you just kill off unit count here. You need to kill off all the infantry, as many of the battlecopters as you can, and let your fighter just go in and have some work here towards preserving the HQ. Oh my gosh, I didn't even see that. What a smart play. Okay, wow. That is so smart. Okay, so the battlecopter comes in here, kills off the infantry on the base, and with the fighter's ridiculous movement range of 9, I believe, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. It can wrap all the way around, go around this battlecopter, and sit on the base locking the base that Arya just got. Incredibly, incredibly strong play. Obviously, Arya wanted to build units from this base, an anti-air, missiles, just something to help with this push. Even more infantry would have been good. But now, not only base locking, but also getting the hit on the battlecopter, and then sitting on the HQ with the infantry is going to be very, very hard to beat. One fighter is not going to do the trick. You're going to need multiple fighters, and this really kind of neuters the entire attack that the Victory March had. So amazing find here by Sami the Superior, especially because this is live play. You can see on the right here, this was done with 2 minutes on the clock. Obviously, this match happened a while ago, but this was done with 2 minutes on the clock by Sonja. What a find here. This is something that, lower players don't even find in asynchronous matches when they have a week. So really great play here. And really impressive understanding of the match dynamics as well, to realize that you didn't need to necessarily sit the fighter on the HQ this turn. You could protect it with the infantry and get a more devastating attack by blocking the base. We do see some more caps here coming back. This is a thing that's very common with Victory March. You think you're going to have a huge income advantage. It's going to be like, 28-10 or something with income advantage. But because you're capturing so many cities across the map, yes, it is going to be 28-10 for like a turn or two. But you're not going to be able to defend any of those, and the flips are going to come back. And that's often what you see with bad Sami play in general. People will go over aggressive for the Victory March, get a bunch of caps, sacrifice their entire army, and then, that income didn't do anything, 3 or 4 turns now because you've lost all those cities back. And even if you got the Neo tank off that you were going for, what's it going to do now? You've lost your entire army in the process. This is especially true in a Sami versus Sami matchup where those income flips are going to happen, or those city flips are going to happen much faster, and especially because also Sonja was starting some of those flips on previous turns in this area around the base that we were talking about. So we do see the infantry coming in here. It would have been amazing if this infantry could have reached the airport. If you had this, like, let's say a double time here, that would have been a very nice play. But without any ability to stop it, these infantry attacks are going to be kind of thin. You do bring in the fighters to help address the fighter on the base, but I don't think it's really going to matter. Even with 2 fighters, I don't believe you're going to be able to clear it. Let's go ahead and do another check here. So you get the first hit here, you knock it down to 5. Okay, so you are going to be able to clear it with the 2 fighters against the fighter on the base. But I don't think it's going to be a full-term solution, especially because you're just going to lose some unit count here in the area to actually come in and clear off the base. So it'll be very interesting to see here what Sonja does, whether they give up this base and kind of retreat, whether they go in for an attack on the fighter themselves. I think you're just going to see fighter chaining here by Sonja, honestly. I think this airport is going to be much, much stronger than this airport, and you can just provide more units to this area faster than Arya can. But we'll see what happens here in the next couple turns. We do see another fighter built here by Arya, making it very clear that they're just going for this HQ. And then, of course, the fighter response by Sonja. We see a double time popped, another double time popped by Sonja, not caring at all about the victory march. I wonder what they'll be going for here. I think it's probably going to be to get this infantry in range to get some infantry hits here. The battlecopter's not going to be in range, and then probably get some more firepower on the fighter hits as well. So we do see that this battlecopter comes in to clear off the battlecopter of Arya's. We do see, okay, so actually with the extra range here, they're going to be able to interrupt the city flip. I don't think the city super matters, honestly. Like, I don't think you're really caring about income as much as unit count here. But they do go for it, and then the fighter is going to step off the base, allowing Arya to build a unit here, which I think was kind of inevitable with the 2 fighters coming in, and with those 2 fighters being able to clear off the fighter on the base. Getting the first strike, though. Getting some good engagements here, and then bringing in units to deal with whatever is built, right? So we're bringing in anti-air to deal with some of the fighters in the area, and then battlecopters if, let's say, a tank is built from this base as well. Other places on the map, we are seeing this kind of attack on the base and HQ of Arya that I talked about earlier. Why I think this infantry was in good positioning here, but this definitely does put a clock on Arya's attack. If they're not fast enough, their own HQ is definitely going to fall under the attack of Sonja the Superior. So we do see the HQ threatened here by this 9 HP infantry. That will flip if it's not killed off by Sonja on the next turn, but obviously that's going to be a very easy task to accomplish. We do see this fighter coming in to attack the battlecopter, and yeah, Arya is trying their best here to wall off this infantry cap, but I do not think this is going to work. Obviously these anti-air are going to come in and help clear off the fighters here. Actually, they're not going to be in range. Well, this one's going to be in range to help kill this fighter, but it's not going to actually destroy it on this turn. But this fighter, because it's 5 HE, because it did not get the first strike on this Sonja the Superior fighter, is going to be a target. So Sonja the Superior can bring this one in, clear off the fighter on this mountain, and then bring in the infantry. And it's going to be able to interrupt this HQ cap here, at least on this upcoming turn. We see a Neo-Tank build here, and I don't understand that really at all. I mean, there's no, like, what are you attacking here? Neo-Tanks cannot attack fighters. They're not going to have good engagements on battlecopters. Yes, they can help clear off the infantry and the anti-air is coming in, but really, like, that's what you're building? I think either, honestly, an anti-air or even a missiles here is way better. The ground units are not your problem. You can deal with those eventually. Like with other builds from this base. The immediate focus here, I think, is all the air units, especially because if you're trying to build charge here for a potential victory march push on this HQ, the anti-air or the missiles could help clear off very valuable units like fighters, which would give you a bunch of charge and help you get that victory march. So I'm really not understanding that Neo-Tank build here by Arya. But we do see, actually, not the 8 HP, but this fighter wrapping around to kill off the fighter on the mountain, allowing a space for the infantry to come in and interrupt the attack on the HQ, or the capture on the HQ. So now it has 2 spots to do it. The battlecopter is going to come in first, and the infantry is going to finish it off. That is not a roll. That was a 100% guaranteed attack, and I think that was actually incredibly strong and incredibly important by Sonja, because if Arya was given the opportunity, they would have definitely joined cap on this HQ and made it very difficult for Sonja to defend. But as it currently stands, I mean, your only hope here is Victory March. This is 5 HP total of infantry value in the area. Your other infantry are a mile away. This Neo tank is doing nothing, like literally nothing. It could only attack 1 infantry, and you're going to be like not having good air engagements. You only have 1 fighter left. This airport is way closer to the front that we're attacking in than this airport. Like, this attack is completely petering out. If I was Sonja here, I would actually not be attacking anywhere else on the map at all. Like, the only way you lose here is if you allow a Victory March and allow the cheeky cap here on the HQ. And you don't have a unit available left to actually sit on the HQ. So Sonja is not necessarily following this advice. I mean, they're winning literally everywhere else on the map, but they are still going for some of these engagements. I do like sitting on the airport here. That is a good idea. I am a fan of that because, again, you're putting a clock on this whole attack on the top left. If you don't do anything, this HQ here on the right here is absolutely going to fall now. But like some of these infantry engagements and some of the engagements that happen here in the south, I think are a little risky. Like, what are we at? We are 25,000 away from the Victory March. Okay, looking at the war state, I don't think that's possible to get. I think this fighter engagement will get you like 6,000 or 7,000. Infantry engagement is going to give you like half 1,000. If this was an anti-air missile, it could get you way more. You might be actually close to the Victory March at that point. But with everything else, I don't think you're going to have nearly enough to get the charge that you need. So maybe these engagements weren't actually as bad as I thought for Sonja in the south. But yeah, let's see what Arya does. They're not going to be able to get the Victory March on this turn. There's no shot, and I think that's going to be kind of the attack petering out, to be honest. These infantry are not going to be in range fast enough, and they're going to get absolutely target fired by all the infantry, or all the units Sonja has in the area. But we do see the missile build now. I think it is probably a turn too late. It is going to still get decent value, killing off some of the air units in the area. But I think you just target fire the infantry here now. Yeah, so we see the fighters go down. Wow, the battlecopter even gets a cheeky hit here on the missiles, kind of lowering their potential as well. Obviously, you do not have Victory March at this point, but this infantry is not going to be it doesn't have any opportunity to reach the HQ on this turn. And we're boxing in the Neo tank as well. Yes, I can get a hit on the anti-air, but who really cared? These anti-air are not, they were valuable when they were coming over, and this was a bunch of an air attack going on. But Sonja has just won all the fighter engagements in this area now. There's no other air, this battlecopter is not going to be here forever, and it's facing 3 fighters. Like this, I don't know. These anti-air are not super valuable, and thus this Neo tank is even less valuable than it was a few turns ago when I was ragging on that buy. Just to be honest here, and just to be frank, I think even if Arya did build missiles here or an anti-air here instead of the Neo tank on the first turn, they still would not have gotten their Victory March on the previous turn. I think I did some math of that earlier. They would have been about 4,000 to 5,000 short, but they would have been closer at least. I still think the Neo tank was bad buy. But yes, it would have still probably been a tough position to get really anything out of. And obviously, again, this is live, so you can't rag on these players too much. They're incredibly strong players. I didn't actually talk about this at the start of this match, but I believe Arya is around a 1,300 player, and Sonja the Spear is like 1,550, so Sonja obviously has the advantage there, but both incredibly strong and also very, very strong live players as well. And the game is also just so much harder in live. You don't have the ability to find these nice wall breaks and these sacrificial ideas as fast as you think you can in an asynchronous match. Although I will say Sonja has been doing a very remarkable job about finding some of these good ideas. The idea of getting the base lock on this recaptured base here and then going off that to defend the HQ, I think has been pretty textbook here by Sonja, and I think they've been playing a great game overall. We do see the double time popped here. I think it again is just going to be to target fire these infantry down. And making sure that Arya does not have any threats here with a Victory March. Oh wow, we see another base lock here. Yeah, they're really, Arya was just going all in on this HU attack because they're allowing another base lock here and getting this anti-air down as well, or the copter down. The copter I think was actually attacking, or was trying to attack maybe this pipe seam to get a better path for fighters to come in. That's not going to work with the time frame that you have. But yeah, we do see the target firing of the infantry down. Now we see the bomber build to deal with this Neo tank. I don't think you even really need to, but yeah, great plays here by Sonja. We do see the infantry killed off here on the HQ, which means this infantry can now come in and cap, which means we are absolutely on a clock now for Arya. This needs to happen in the next couple turns. Interesting that this infantry didn't cap. Obviously, the 6 HP mech could have come and interrupted you on the mountains if you did, but even then, I think you would just join cap and then deal with it in other ways. So a little bit interesting to see that engagement and not going directly for the HQ rush. But this is still absolutely a winning position for Sonja, so can't be too critical there. So we actually, interesting. So now it's Arya's turn, and basically, if this victory march doesn't happen right now, which, do we have even anything in range? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no. So no infantry are in range this turn, which means I think you're cooked. I don't think there's any way to win. These infantry are not surviving the next turn with this entire force coming in. But Arya is still fighting on for now, deleting their missiles to build an anti-air. Yeah, we really see some minimal engagements here. Now this infantry is in range, but again, it's not going to matter. We pass it to Sonja's turn. They should just be able to start this cap now and target fire down Arya's infantry. It's what we're seeing. And we'll just fast forward here because I think this game is over. Another bomber built here. We pass to Arya's turn. Get some engagements. Nothing again is in range to get to the HQ, so you're doing a very good job defending that. And we see the HQ captured here by Sonja the Superior. So really exciting matchup here. Amazing game there by Sonja the Superior. I think that was some of the most impressive live Sami play, especially that I've seen it on this map. Because I've seen a few different replays on this map before, but I think Sonja really got some ideas here that were really remarkable. You had the first CO cop push on getting the middle base here. Very strong play, very much punishing Arya's mech build on that base. And then we had the really, I'm going to call it like brilliant play here with the fighter to not defend your HQ immediately, but actually base lock the Arya Fireheart recently captured base on the Victory March, making sure that they cannot build either anti-airs, missiles, or potentially a Neotech from that base for at least a few more turns. Really allowed the defense to come in and protect this HQ against the second Victory March coming in from Arya Fireheart. Yeah, and the fact that all that was done in a live format, I think Sonja played this game exceptionally well. Kind of talking a little bit about the tournament now, going into this match. So yeah, this was a game, I don't remember which game it was, but it was part of a 3-game series in which Sonja the Superior ultimately won over Arya Fireheart, and then eventually Sonja the Superior won their group bracket as well. So you will see Sonja the Superior in the grand finals or in the finals of the APC 2 tournament. They will obviously be under a different name. It is possible, because the first round, the quarterfinals of the APC bracket was last weekend, that Sonja the Superior is already eliminated. But I do think, based on their style of play, that they did advance in through the quarterfinals. That is at least my guesses so far. So I think we will see them this Saturday, again, November 15th, and this Sunday, potentially, if they win their Saturday match in the grand finals as well. As for me, like I said before at the beginning of this video, I will be co-casting the grand finals of the APC 2 tournament this Sunday. We don't know exactly what time that match is going to start yet. I believe we're going to be talking with the players to figure that out, but it will be posted by Humita eventually, and I will, of course, put a post on my channel as well. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching, everybody. My name is MansaMusa, and remember, even if you capture a base, for some reason, you can't build a unit if there's a fighter overhead. Bye, guys.